Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. I am MagMongoSlade, and we will be discussing Monday Night Raw, February the 10th, 2024. We're going to talk about the show, but we got plenty of news and notes to get through, so please bear with me. We might be here for a while. We're going to start with the brand new releases that actually occurred since SmackDown. So Elektra Lopez, Gallows and Anderson, Giovanni Vinci, and Isla Dawn were all announced as no longer working for WWE as of, I'm guessing, what was that, February the 7th. Okie dokie, let's go through this list. Elektra Lopez, she was on TV every week with Legado del Fantasma, but she wasn't doing much of anything except looking pretty on TV. She can't really wrestle. The last time we saw her wrestle, she was not very good. And since that's all Triple H cares about, he doesn't see the value in just having a pretty woman on the roster to do managerial stuff. You know, cut promos, add charisma and aura to the group, which she does. And as soon as he fired her, he just replaced her with Zelina Vega because he thinks these people are, you know, they're cookie cutter. They can just be replaced. Oh, I'm thinking some kind of Puerto Rican, right? So let's just replace her with another Puerto Rican female wrestler. Even though Zelina Vega is probably about 7 or 8 years older than Elektra Lopez. Again, not really considering the youth element of it. But I get it. Elektra Lopez is not a good wrestler. It's a slam dunk to get rid of her. Gallows and Anderson, two of the most useless pieces of garbage in WWE history, never should have worked there in the first place. I think Gallows, I think he has broken the record for the person who has been fired more times from WWE. This has got to be like the 5th or 6th time he has been fired from WWE. This has got to be a record. I don't know anybody who has been fired from this company more than Gallows. All right, not Bruce Pritchard, not nobody. Nobody's been fired more than this guy. I can't think of anybody who has been sent home, told to go away and stay away more than Doc Gallows. And the craziest thing is, they keep bringing him back. He comes back because they want him back. It's not like he's sneaking in the back door and they're throwing him out like, you know, Moe when he throws out Barney. You know, he throws Barney out and Barney comes in through the back door. They keep hiring this guy. Like, they keep hiring him and then firing him. He was worthless since day one. Since he was Festus, he was worthless. So, I don't get it. You know, this is twice for Carl Anderson. I'm pretty sure they stacked up hella money. They're probably going to go back to Japan. They probably got a spot waiting for them in AEW. Who knows? But these are certainly AEW guys. They're old. They're bald. They're useless. They're pointless. Nobody gives a fuck about them. They will be great to hang out with the Elite and the rest of those guys. Or they can just flutter back to Japan. I don't care. So I don't care about Gallows and Anderson. Now the last two will be Giovanni Vinci and Isla Dawn. Let's talk about Isla Dawn first. Isla Dawn is an internet favorite. A lot of people think she's very attractive. I've just, you know, okay. My surprise is that they fired Isla Dawn, but they didn't fire the other one. They fired half of her tag team. She was in a tag team, and Alba Fire, who Triple H loves because he put her as the NXT UK Women's Champion, and she was champion for like 2 years. So Triple H, not in a rush to get rid of Alba Fire. But Isla Dawn, however, was a Shawn Michaels project. Now, Isla Dawn, when she first started really getting pushed, she was doing a Wiccan character. At the time she was doing this, I believe it was before Alexa Bliss started doing the Fiend-esque gimmick that she was doing. But there was too many girls walking around with black fingernail polish being spooky and goth. I mean, Liv Morgan was teasing doing something similar at the same time, but she actually got a chance to run with it because of NXT UK. Now, when that closed, she was kicked over to NXT proper, and she never really got started there. She had that short feud with Kaylee Ray, who ended up becoming Alba Fire, and then they teamed them up. They became the NXT Women's Tag Team Champions, lost those belts immediately to the actual Tag Team Champions. So they basically fused those belts together, and then they spent most of their time in catering. They then became the Tag Team Champions because they wanted to have a show in Scotland, and Triple H just had to have a hometown team win, even though he didn't build that up at all. I went on an entire rant about that when they did the Clash at the Castle, because it made no sense at the time. It was dumb at that time. But he did it anyway, and it was a big moment, probably the biggest moment of Isla Dawn's career. Now, to be fair, when Tenille Dashwood, a.k.a. Who was Tenille Dashwood? What was her name? I don't know. But she thought she was going to get to wrestle in Australia because she was under WWE contract. They fired her like 3 weeks before. So at least Isla Dawn got that. At least her family got to see her wrestle in her home country and win a championship. Surprise, surprise. But Isla Dawn is, once you realize that there's too many sort of gimmicky, witchy kind of characters, there was not, that far for her to go. She's not a very strong promo, and her character pretty much got co-opted by people who were more important than she was on the roster. So now Isla Dawn is an interesting case because I don't see her going to TNA. Now, the reason why is because she is one of the girls that does not like Tessa Blanchard. She's also one of the girls that kind of petitioned to keep Tessa Blanchard out of WWE. So I don't see her going to work with TNA if she doesn't like Tessa Blanchard, which means she's likely going to end up back in Europe, or she's probably going to end up mopping floors in AEW or something. Sucks to be her. Really bad situation for her to be in, unless she can make up with Tessa and maybe they can get along for a short time. Now, Giovanni Vinci. This is another one that people really like on the internet. Kind of bland, never really got a chance to show his personality. The sort of European superstar gimmick, the kind of James Bond-ish gimmick that they gave him in NXT, a lot of people like that. I liked him with Imperium. I also liked that gimmick too. I thought it was pretty funny. But I never heard a strong promo from this guy. But he's incredibly athletic. Just could do anything in the ring, which is a surprise because Triple H loves that. So when he got kicked out of Imperium, and then they brought back his NXT gimmick, and then they killed that in 2 weeks, there had to be like some serious heat on this guy, right? So the only thing we can guess, and I saw, I've been looking at all the rumors and innuendo, and there was some gossip. I'm just going to bring it here because this is an entertainment show. I'm not saying that any of this stuff actually happened. But there's a story that's been floating around for about a year that he was trying to flirt with or hit on Tiffany Stratton, who is the girlfriend of Ludwig Kaiser, who was his tag team partner in Imperium. Now, apparently that's why he was kicked out of Imperium and moved to SmackDown. Now, this, of course, likely will never be confirmed. But if that's what happened, understandable, And not that, Kaiser's a top guy or anything like that. But, scumbag behavior should be punished. And to be quite honest, if Kaiser and Gunther, who are best friends, and they're working together, which they were, and he's kind of the odd man out in that group. So if Kaiser is upset and Gunther's got Kaiser's back, politically, he's a guy on his own. Now, it was weird that would be the case, and then they would move Vinci to SmackDown, where Tiffany Stratton works. That would be weird, wouldn't it? But the guy is incredibly talented. He can make some money in the United States if he wants to. I think he's going to go back to his original name, Fabian Eichner. and probably go over to Europe and make a ton of money, you know. But he's a talented guy. I just can't think of promos or anything like that that really stood out. He's just kind of like the third guy in Imperium, the quiet one, but was a hell of a worker. So again, nothing gained, nothing lost here. Kind of a surprise, not really. You know, they could have cut more people if we're being honest. I heard they're probably gonna make some NXT cuts too, and I'm expecting those to hit people pretty hard. But there's some whispers that there's going to be some NXT cuts because there's going to be some people coming in. And apparently there's about to be a bunch of call-ups too. So it's about to be real interesting. Now to double back to the previous releases, Blair Davenport, there's a story running around now that Blair Davenport was supposed to be in the Women's Royal Rumble, but they took her spot and gave it to Nikki Bella, which is crazy. But I mean, just think of the reaction Blair Davenport would not have gotten, you know. Also, I forgot that Blair Davenport and Isla Dawn was teaming with Alba Fire, and they were a trio for a time. I actually forgot about that. Somebody had to remind me about that, but it doesn't matter anyway. Now 2/3 of them are fired. Now 2/3 of them are gone. Too bad. All right, so that's the releases. Next. Vince McMahon, The Undertaker, and Shane McMahon all appeared at the Super Bowl. And Undertaker wore a funny hat. He looked like he was about to go fishing. He thought he was incognito with that hat on, but no. It just made him stand out more. And Shane, you know, hey, I'm glad to see Shane and Vince hanging out. But Vince, of course, was the star of the show as usual. He looked half the usual Vince McMahon size. He was very svelte, you know. He slimmed down. He was dressed casually. He wasn't wearing a suit. No goofy mustache. You know, he was back to his salt and pepper hair. He just looked normal. This is the most normal Vince has looked in probably ever. Svelte Vince McMahon is a top 5 Vince McMahon variant. All right. Now that Ricardo, you know, that the Zorro thing he had going on 2 years ago, where he had the mustache with the dark hair, he looked ridiculous. He looked like Desi Arnaz's corpse. That looked ridiculous. That's the worst Vince McMahon variant. But svelte Super Bowl Vince, not bad. He looked healthy, you know. I wish people had a better picture than the one that they've been floating around with his eyes closed. But nice to see him out and about. He knows something we don't because he's hanging out in public. Well, may I take a second for the Super Bowl? Because people have asked me to talk about the Kendrick Lamar thing. I'm not going to go into any granular detail, I promise. But I feel like it needs to be discussed. For starters, once the score was 34-0, I tapped out of the game. I stopped watching the game. I went up and did something else. Now, the Super Bowl halftime show, I did want to see that. Mainly because I knew that the lawsuit would try to prevent them from doing Not Like Us. But the only reason he was offered the Super Bowl spot was because of the success of Not Like Us. So I knew they were going to get it in there. I was impressed that they did the song, but changed some of the lyrics and heavily edited the song. Now, the entirety of the performance, which was about 13 minutes, it featured songs like Peekaboo, DNA, Humble, you know, a couple of Kendrick Lamar things. A lot of people were, you know, drooling all over the artistic element of the people dressed in blue and red and white, and they're shaped like the flag, and they're laying down like swastikas, and they're doing all this stuff. And you got Samuel L. Jackson. He's Uncle Sam, and he's a black conservative telling Kendrick Lamar that he's too loud. Does he know how to play the game? Yada, yada, yada. Yeah, I saw all of that stuff too. I still feel like it was a very pedestrian halftime show. You know, people who say like it was the worst halftime show of all time, it's like, bro, get real. It wasn't. It wasn't nearly the worst. Here's a big issue that I think stands out, and it's a racial issue. Blacks are only 13% of the population at most. 12 12, 13%. Okay? If you're going to keep having messaging specifically aimed at 12 to 13% of the population, then there's 70% of the population that don't get it. And this is supposed to be a unifying game. And you're going to have a halftime show that alienates over 60% of the audience. And then it becomes a talking point on the internet that all these lame white people who don't get Kendrick Lamar. It's like, for starters, the reason why you guys love him so much is because he's so entrenched in black culture. Okay, why would white people who don't see that many black people all the time, why would they care about this? Of course they're detached from this. And then some of them are politically against it. I mean, that's just, you just can't do anything about that. But I don't think that it was a bad performance. I just think it was pedestrian. He did exactly what we thought he was going to do. All right? He tried to turn it into some kind of political bullshit because that's what Kendrick Lamar does. This is why they put him in that position. They don't give you this kind of stuff. And by they, I mean the establishment. The Jay-Z's of the world. The revolution is going to be televised. It's not a revolution if Jay-Z and Beyonce are on your side. Right? If Doritos and Snickers and hundreds of millions of dollars of corporate America is on your side, you are not the revolution. That's the problem here. All these people think that they're the revolution and that the revolution is going to be sponsored by billionaires. Get the fuck out of here. If he was legitimately a threat to anybody, he wouldn't be in the middle of the Super Bowl. He wouldn't be there. He's there because he's safe. He's there because he preaches the message that they want preached, which is more division. This is why I keep doing those videos about communism. I'm not saying Kendrick Lamar is a communist. I'm saying he's being used by these people and he's raking in dough to do it. Now, you don't get paid to do the Super Bowl. It's free publicity. But it's the biggest game of the year, the biggest sports event in America. And he's already sold a ton of records. But he's likely now fully immortalized in American culture. And he went up there and he was divisive, as usual. He did something that appealed to only 12 to 13% of the population. And then if you add some of the white liberals who pretend that they care about this kind of stuff, at max 20% of the population. You know? So, it is what it is. But I don't think it was bad. I think people who are hating, saying that it was a bad performance, if you just don't like rap, that makes sense. That's why you wouldn't have liked it. But I'm on the fence about Kendrick Lamar, where I like his artistry, but I understand that he is a Trojan horse. His job is to get all of the bullshit into mainstream black America. So I'm not surprised at all if the majority of the people who are pushing this stuff are white liberals and race-based Negroes, the NAACP and all of them. I mean, it is what it is. All right, so let's move away from that. Now, let's talk about this. Now, I was going to save this for AEW, but let's talk about it here. Apparently, AEW has finally let Miro, Ricky Starks, and Aleister Black out of these contracts. Now, it's not possible that all three of these contracts ended on the same day, which means they likely just said fuck it and let them go, which they're beyond time to do. So, now, I don't know how true it is. I think Miro was the only one that isn't actually a free agent. I've heard all three of them are free agents, but I also heard that Miro was the only one that's an actual free agent, and that the other two just taken off the roster. I don't know how it goes. But what could be the idea of, bringing these guys in? Ricky Starks has never worked there, so he's a completely different situation. But returning Aleister Black and bringing back Miro, what's the ceiling for these guys? You know, all of these dudes are in their mid-30s, which continues the situation that I've been having with Triple H for a while, that he prioritizes talent in their mid-30s and doesn't really focus on the young talent. Now, they did, when it comes to Aleister Black, again, I said before, I like him. I think he's welcome. He should come back. They teased on this very same episode of Monday Night Raw that they would bring in new members of Judgment Day. And Finn Balor was against any new members. This seems like a good vehicle for bringing in Aleister Black. Again, one of my issues before when I talked about this was that his character was very similar to what they were already doing with Damian Priest in Judgment Day. And now they moved Damian Priest to SmackDown. There's an open spot on Raw. And then you have sort of a feud right there with Finn Balor. It would be interesting if that's what they chose to do with him. Otherwise, just wait until after WrestleMania. But I actually do like Aleister Black. He's certainly coming in. Ricky Starks is a slam dunk. Now, Ricky Starks, I think, is in his mid-30s. He's like somewhere between 32 and 36. Do you send him to NXT? That would be sort of the question. You know, I don't think he needs to go to NXT, personally. I think you could also send him to SmackDown because Cody is friends with them and Cody can ingratiate him to the roster. And it could give him some kind of solid grounding in order to work from. And I think Ricky Starks is a guy with his charisma and his personality. The sky's the limit. Do I think he could be the WWE champion? I think with the right storyline, yes. You know, he's just a very talented dude. He's just never going to get that chance in AEW. And I keep seeing this. I saw it right before I started this video. People saying, "Oh, Ricky Starks, he's such a bullshit artist, and he didn't take every opportunity he was given. He did this, he did that," and they comparing him to Swerve, right? But leaving out the part that Swerve is an absolute stooge. He's a stooge. Remember Swerve going on, you know, all these podcasts talking about WWE tried to steal me from AEW, but I'm loyal to the soil and all that bullshit. Stooging. Right? Hanging up under Tony Khan, talking about, I want to be the first black world champion. Stooging. He's a stooge. I'm sorry. Ricky Starks didn't stooge. You know, he didn't stooge hard enough. And I'm not saying Swerve ain't talented. I've been a big Swerve booster. Here in NXT, when he was on the main roster in WWE, I was always a Swerve supporter. But the nigga is a stooge. He is what he is. Don't compare him to Ricky Starks. He's a stooge. Now, Miro's an interesting case. Because for a lot of people, he should have been a main event guy when he was in WWE before. He is in a very interesting situation now because now he doesn't have Lana. Him and Lana are separated. Lana was a big part of Miro's gimmick. She was a big part of why he was over. Of course, the Rusev Day thing, but the guy who does the Rusev Day, he's in TNA now, right? So maybe that would be the move. You send Rusev to TNA where he and Aiden English can get back together and do Miro Day, I guess. But I like Miro. I love the Redeemer, what he was doing in AEW. I thought that was fantastic. I don't know why the momentum stopped, but it stopped because it always stops with AEW. I'm a big fan of all three guys, to be quite honest, and I'm interested in how Triple H would utilize them, but I'm not sure Triple H would get the most out of Miro because Miro is a guy who seemingly has a lot of personality. He's also a big dude, and Vince really liked him. And he got a push almost immediately, much like Bianca Belair and a couple of other people that came up from NXT that Triple H wasn't doing much with. Vince saw something in this guy, took it, ran with it, and ended up wrestling John Cena in his first WrestleMania. Huge push. I'm not sure if Triple H is going to be able to mirror that. But I think it should be an attempt to try, if not for anything more than just giving these guys opportunities. Now, if you compare, all of these guys to like Andrade, look at Andrade's situation. He came back to WWE. He's barely mid-card. It's unfortunate, but that's just kind of how it is. I think that the ceiling on these guys is probably a little bit higher, mostly because all of them speak English perfectly. And I kind of want to see what's going to happen here. I'm interested. I'm interested in how Triple H is going to integrate these pieces, but his storylines are moving so goddamn slow. You might see Miro in the Royal Rumble next year, and that's his debut or something stupid like that. All right, so that's pretty much everything that I got in terms of news and notes. 25 minutes of news and notes. Hopefully you appreciated it. Now we're going to get into the show. Jey Uso has chosen Gunther to be his opponent for WrestleMania in one of the least dramatic segments in all of WWE history. Nobody expected Jey Uso to wrestle Cody. Jey Uso comes out. He's yeeting and waving, and Gunther just attacks him, beats him up, throws him all over the place. Jey ends up fighting back. Gunther beat him up again. As Gunther is walking away, Jey makes it official, challenges Gunther for the world title at WrestleMania, and then they continue to brawl. And now the fans are excited. I'm not excited. And it has nothing to do with Jey Uso's in-ring talent. It has to do with I just saw this match 2 weeks ago. Why are there rematches when they don't need to be rematches? Could have just had him win the belt at Saturday night's main event, man. It's just so many weird booking decisions that Triple H is insisting on doing here. Goodness gracious. So the first match that's solidified for WrestleMania is Gunther versus Jey Uso, which, okie dokie, whatever, man. It don't matter. Moving on, Rhea Ripley claims that Charlotte is stalling and attempts to stay relevant. She is then confronted by Io, who is upset because Rhea cost her the Elimination Chamber shot. Later in the show, Io is confronted by Rhea, and Rhea announces that she's going to give Io her championship match, but it's going to be the day after the Elimination Chamber, or the Raw after. I think Elimination Chamber is on a Saturday. And so this is March the 3rd or 4th or something like that. And why? What is Rhea Ripley going to be doing at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view that she does not have to work that show, but instead will be wrestling Io Sky, who gets yet another championship match? She's the Nia Jax of Raw, where she just gets endless title shots. For some reason, she's getting a free title match, and they don't even have to work the pay-per-view. They're going to work the Monday after the pay-per-view. Triple H, I don't know. I know what he's doing. He's trying to say, hey, the pay-per-view don't need this match. The TV show needs this match. At the same time, though, you book this goddamn thing. There's a reason why the TV isn't drawing. The TV's not drawing because you're not doing anything to jazz the TV up. You're just booking fucking matches. Alright? We're going to book this match for 3 weeks out. 3 weeks out? And then you booked Io to be in a tag team match with Dakota Kai, who for some reason is still employed, despite the fact that she's literally a human Fabergé egg. She's still employed, and they defeat Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, who, if you remember, beat the tag team champions. So it's not just that Io Sky gets a free title shot, but she also just beat the number one contenders to the tag team titles. There's just endless championships in the way for EO. The push is never ending. Good Lord have mercy. What the hell? This match was super long too, by the way. It was super long. Speaking of no build, the Creed brothers get a shot at the War Raiders for the tag team titles. No build whatsoever outside of Chad Gable wants them to be the tag team champions. So they go out there and they have the match and the Creed brothers get disqualified. They attack the War Raiders with the tag team titles, hitting them across the head and neck. Look, I'm okay with the finish. I just wish the match wasn't that long. If you're going to have a disqualification, at least keep it short. These 5, 6, 8-minute matches, 10-minute matches that end in disqualification, it feels like a waste of time. All right? The Creed brothers are a good team. Big fan of them. I hate that they're a fake-ass, fake-ass team angle. I hate the whole American-made, American Alpha. It don't make sense. It don't make sense why Otis and Tozawa are still American Alpha. It just don't make sense to me. I like the Creed brothers. Again, I would have preferred to see them win matches on TV to build to this match so that people would care about it instead of just, we're going to book these guys versus these guys and then have them smash together and then there's going to be a disqualification because we got to run it back. Because we can't have the War Raiders just beat them because then you got nothing left. And then you can't have the Creed brothers win because they had put forth no effort. So it had to be a disqualification. It had to be, you know. So there's that. So then we had our singles match, Bayley versus Lyra Valkyria, Elimination Chamber qualifying match. Now let's say I did like this match. It was a little sloppy, but I did like this match. Lyra Valkyria, this is her first match outside of the Royal Rumble since she won this title. And she lost this match clean. Now, I've seen a lot of people on the internet say, well, she hasn't defended her title even once and she's already lost. It's not even that. This is the first time she's walked down a ramp as the champion since she won the belt. And she lost. Clean. And the crazy thing is you had Roxanne Perez in the crowd. You could have easily have done, for starters, stop putting wrestlers in the crowd. I'm actually starting to agree with Vince Russo on this. Stop putting wrestlers in the crowd. They look like jabronis in the crowd. All right? Get them out of the crowd. Or they should be dressed like fucking Macho Man Randy Savage in the crowd or something. Loud and boisterous and all that stuff. If they just dress like they're about to go to Walmart and then you put them in the crowd, they look like everybody else. They don't stand out. So, in any event, they did nothing to cause a distraction, to cause a problem. I mean, you could have had Lyra Valkyria lose by count out. She could have lost by disqualification. You could have done anything in order to end this. But they just had Lyra Valkyria take a pin. There's a lot of people going to be mad at Bayley about this. It's not Bayley's fault. This is the booker. Alright? The booker did this. It's stupid. But at least the match was solid. Can't complain about the match. Did like that. They did a vignette for Penta, who wants to fight Pete Dunne. Penta is already on main event. He's wrestling. Who did he wrestle on main event? I didn't look. It doesn't matter. He's on main event now. And I've seen so many people, oh, it's not that big a deal. Cody doesn't wrestle on main event. Gunther doesn't wrestle on main event. Jey Uso doesn't wrestle on main event. There's a whole class. CM Punk doesn't show up on main event. This guy is too new for you to be throwing him on main event. If he had been there for 4 or 5 years and nobody really cares, then maybe. If he was like Apollo Crews tier, yeah, sure. But you put a guy that you think is going to be a top guy, that you want to be a top guy, and you just throw him on main event already? He's only had 3 matches on TV. These guys do not understand that you downgrade your talent. It's the same thing with that WWE speed stuff. Once you have taught the audience that the talent don't matter, and you don't promote them for anything or anything that means something, then people will tune it out. Like, nobody who has ever wrestled in a speed match is going to be super over on TV. They're not going to care. Braun Breaker was in speed matches. Look at where he hasn't cut a promo on this show. He ain't done fuck all anything on this show. And this show is 5-6 weeks in. And every segment has been a backstage segment with him staring at somebody. That's it. Or being shoved or pushed or something. They refuse to give him any kind of television time. Alright? Dragon Lee. He's all over the speed show. They got no time for him on Monday Night Raw. These B shows that they put people on, it tells the fans these people are not stars. It was the same reason why we don't want timeless Tony Storm on Collision or on Rampage. You're telling people that these people do not matter. What they're going to do does not matter. So we're going to put it on the B show. That's not going to make people watch the B show. Because now we live in the age of the internet. I'm going to see it anyway. Right? You're just devaluing the talent for no reason. I don't understand why you take a talent that you're investing so much in Penta, and then throw him on main event. It's foolish. Absolutely foolish. In any event, Ludwig Kaiser wants to fight Penta. Dunn and Kaiser have an issue. Dunn wasn't trying to help Kaiser. Kaiser doesn't care about that, didn't want his help anyway. And then Dunn challenged Penta to a match next week. So we're already doing rematches. And it's against trying to give the rub to Pete Dunne, who is worthless. You know, this guy still having it. I mean, look, I understand he's a Triple H guy through and through. Triple H loves him some Pete Dunne. When they first did the NXT UK thing, he actually worked an angle with Pete Dunne. He loves him some Pete Dunne, all right? I don't know why. I don't know why he likes this guy so much, but he does. Triple H needs to listen to the audience. And the audience is silent every time Pete Dunne shows up. I do like Kaiser, though. So we got AJ Styles. He made an appearance. I thought this was pretty good. He says that he looked in the mirror. He still got something to prove. Still got some gas in the tank. He gets confronted by Dominic Mysterio and Carlito, who is both yelling in Spanish. So they got booed out of the building. AJ Styles mocks them for Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest leaving them. Also for wearing skinny jeans and nobody liking them. He appreciates Dom's work ethic, but said he'll always be Ray's punk-ass kid. So Dominic and Carlito decided to jump AJ Styles. They beat him up, but he fought back and they fled. And then AJ Styles went to Adam Pearce to get a match with Dominic Mysterio next week. I like the idea of Dominic Mysterio versus AJ Styles. That's fine. Now, at this point, AJ Styles gets the match with Dominic Mysterio. Everything's looking good. And now he's confronted with Braun Breaker. Right? And Braun Breaker is wearing a cowboy hat. Why is he wearing a cowboy hat? He just looks silly. Right? Is because they're in Nashville he's wearing a cowboy hat? I don't know. Anyway, they stare down and they're teasing once more AJ Styles versus Braun Breaker. I love the idea. I said it before. Really, really like the concept of these two guys just having a match against each other. Would be great if Braun Breaker was hot, though. And he could be hot if he was on TV beating people and cutting promos, calling people out or whatever. Not just hanging out and catering, doing 3-second stare downs with people. He done 3-second stare downs with like half the roster. You know? Like, this is a guy who went in there and tangled with Roman Reigns, and now he can't do anything. Again, this I Show Speed thing got like 500 million views. This is why your ratings are going down. As far as we know. I'm not so sure how ratings are calculated on Netflix, but they said he lost 3 million viewers. I can only go by the information that I got. The reason why everything is going down, your storylines take too long to develop, and you don't push any new stars. Every week it's the same fucking people. Jey Uso, Io Sky, Gunther, Finn Balor, Liv Morgan. Same fucking people every week. War Raiders, every week. Chad Gable, every week. Bayley, every week. You don't mix it up and show any new people. Okay? And then this stuff doesn't move forward, so people tune out. They just wait for the next thing to happen. Let me know. Wake me up when something happens. And so people start watching it. It's unfortunate. But AJ Styles, Braun Breaker, okay. Tease that. Whenever we decide to do that, I'm fine with it. Hopefully it's WrestleMania. Maybe they'll pull it for Elimination Chamber, but we'll see. Seth Rollins plans to win the Elimination Chamber. Said that all eyes are on him. Finn Balor, who is his opponent next week, couldn't be more underwhelming of an opponent. Finn Balor never wins. He never wins. So there's no reason to believe that Finn Balor is going to win now. So they have a tete-a-tete back and forth. Seth Rollins, oh man. Look, they're really trying to make him a big deal. And I get it. He's been pushed consistently since 2015. But I don't think there's a guy who feels more like an also-ran than Seth Rollins. It just feels like this super push of Seth Rollins does not work because it always just ends up with him losing. You know? It feels to me that Seth Rollins, despite being a bona fide main event guy in WWE, a lot of the stuff he's done for the last 5 years or so has felt half-baked. It felt like, okay, he's finally got something going, and then they kill it because they want to put somebody else over even more. You know? And he's done some stuff that I liked. I liked the Monday Night Messiah. They killed that because they wanted him to feud with Kevin Owens, who, you know, was a heat killer. Also, I think he lost to Drew a bunch of times, too, if I remember correctly. And then there was some other stuff there, too. And then he started cross-dressing. I wasn't a big fan of that. But Seth Rollins does not feel like he's on the same level as Punk and Cena and those guys, despite the fact that his presentation is that he's on the same level as those guys. It just doesn't feel that way, you know? But they try to position Rollins like he's on that tier of talent. I'm just not seeing it. And I'm saying this as a guy who doesn't dislike Seth Rollins at all, outside of the way his caricature, you know, way of behaving. Oh, speaking of Seth Rollins, there was a big thing over the weekend about his comments about some trade in the NBA, and the AEW fans were super mad at him. I was going to do a roast or smart tears about it, and then I thought about it, like, I don't really even understand it. It had something to do with the NBA, where it was like some kind of big trade in the NBA, and he was asked what would be the WWE to AEW equivalent, and he said there's nobody on that level, you know. And I don't know how to analyze that because I don't know who the basketball players involved. You know, like, I don't know enough about them. But the AEW fans were super mad. Of course, they were saying, like, oh, Will Ospreay owns them. Kenny Omega's the best in the world, blah, 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 Swerve this, and Hangman Page that. Just a bunch of nobodies who don't draw shit currently. You know, I would imagine this is a big deal in the NBA because these guys draw money. You know, they sell tickets. They score buckets. They win games. None of those guys in AEW apply. You know, they may win matches, but those are works. They don't sell any fucking tickets. You know, nobody cares about them, generally. You know, I'm pretty sure they're very nice guys. They use their turn signals and they shake everybody's hand. You know, they maintain eye contact. They nod and they know what a salad spoon is or a salad fork and all that. I'm pretty sure they know everything. You know, that doesn't mean that they draw money in pro wrestling. So I think that his opinion that there's nobody on that level that they're willing to trade for AEW top level main event guys. I think it's facts. Kenny Omega, might be the one guy, but he's got like 3 miles of intestines missing, and he's 40 years old. So maybe Omega for Styles, is that the equivalent? I guess. I love AJ Styles though, so I would keep him. I would not trade him for Kenny Omega, not for nothing in the world. But I figured it had to be mentioned. Now, I talked about this earlier, but Finn Balor goes into the Judgment Day locker room. He's stirring up shit again, pissing off Dominic, pissing off Liv. And Liv is talking about bringing in new members, and Finn's like, no new members. He doesn't want any new members. But Liv says she wants to bring in a new member. I'm interested in this because I'm guessing that this new member is likely going to be, hopefully not Raquel. Is Raquel technically in the group or not? I don't know. Oh yeah, now that I think about this, I gotta talk about this. Let's just talk about AJ Styles. Omas, he was in Japan. Yeah? So Omas was in Japan. He was a tag team champion over there. The Japanese wrestling fans who followed Pro Wrestling Noah, they were big fans of him. They loved him. He gave up his tag team title that he won over there to come back over here, and most people thought that he was going to be in the Royal Rumble, and then he wasn't. So now, people are like, what did they call Omos back for? What's going to happen? And then I've seen people say, they're going to reform his tag team with AJ Styles. And I just thought about it, that AJ Styles was fighting Dominic Mysterio and Carlito. And that's when, it just occurred, it just struck me. Are they about to have AJ Styles and Omos as a tag team? Because that is an absolute waste of AJ Styles. Look, I don't care. Omos I'm pretty sure he's a very nice guy. I'm sure he waves at his neighbors. I'm sure he makes sure that you get home safe. He's probably a very good designated driver. In terms of, do I need him to be a tag team to AJ Styles? The answer is no. I don't need it. Right? If Omos is going to work singles, I'm willing to entertain that. I don't need him to be a tag team partner for AJ Styles. I want AJ Styles' last run to be as close to what he can be in terms of a singles act. He's obviously going to be a step slower, but I want solo AJ Styles, not this makeshift tag team between him and Omos. And it worked. They think they were a good team. Omos got to show some personality there, but I don't want that. I want AJ Styles to wrestle Braun Breaker. I want AJ Styles to wrestle Dragon Lee. I want him to wrestle Chad Gable. I want him to wrestle these guys in his final run. I want him to wrestle CM Punk and Seth Rollins and Finn Balor and all these guys. I don't want him tag teaming because the tag team division is dead. It's fucking dead. It's over. It's just the Viking Raiders and the Creed Brothers. That's it. That's the entirety of the fucking division. All right? I don't want him wasting away in that. Moving on. CM Punk. CM Punk got kind of pissy with John Cena because John Cena did not have to qualify. This is like the third or fourth time he's taken a shot at John Cena. He's been taking shots at John Cena in the media about not qualifying for the Elimination Chamber and basically just calling his shot. He said he's no longer upset about that, however, because he feels like Cena earned it. But he's going to beat the crap out of him. He called Drew McIntyre a piece of garbage. Said that Drew McIntyre is a piece of garbage. He whooped his ass in Hell in a Cell. He's going to do even worse in the Elimination Chamber. Made some threats towards both Finn Balor and Seth Rollins. He said Seth Rollins isn't even worth talking about, which I agree with. And then he's interrupted by Logan Paul. And they changed Logan Paul's theme song because they changed everybody's theme song. Everybody's. This was a whole nother thing, too, that came out, that there's going to be some kind of boycott if they don't get rid of Def Rebel. I don't believe this. I think that this is something the fans are creating in the dirt sheets because they want this to be a thing. But these things are not changing. It's only getting worse. The theme songs on this show is atrocious. It is atrocious. It is really, really, really fucking bad. Consistently across the board. The only good themes are typically people who had their theme before the whole Death Rebel thing. They've even gotten rid of the new AJ Styles theme. They got rid of it. You got rid of it. He's back to his theme from 2016. All right? But they haven't touched Randy's music. So his music is fine. They haven't touched Kevin Owens or Sami Zayn's music, and their music is fine. Cody came in with his own music. They didn't touch that. But they've remixed Gunther's music 100 times. It's like the third rendition of Gunther's theme. Now, they've had a couple of bangers. I think the Jey Uso theme was a pretty good banger. But for the most part, they've been whiffing on the themes. And they keep changing them. That's the worst part. Not to just say that they're bad, but they're also not recognizable. Because you're changing them so often, we don't even know who the fuck is coming to the ring. So at least they kept the beginning of Logan Paul's music the same, so that you'll know who it is. But they changed it. Again, now it's rap. Because everything must be fucking rap, right? So he comes out and says he has CM Punk's number, because he threw CM Punk out of the Royal Rumble. And this was after CM Punk bragged that he had never lost to Logan Paul. Punk said that he actually forgot Logan Paul even had a chance at Elimination Chamber, but if he got in it, he was going to kick his ass. Then said he should focus on Rey Mysterio. And this was the main event of the show with zero build-up. Rey Mysterio versus Logan Paul. Now, I get it. You think Logan Paul is a big star. I love Logan Paul. I think he's an excellent professional wrestler. I thought this was an excellent match. He did a really good job. I don't like that Logan Paul won it clean, or as clean as it could be. But I think he's a fantastic professional wrestler. He's very good at his job. And Rey Mysterio, of course, is Rey Mysterio. He's tremendous. The issue that I have here is that they didn't build this thing. Raw has done a huge problem of not building main events. Not even bothering to build main events. There's no promos between the two guys early in the show. There's no story going into the main event. This is something that you didn't need to watch this whole match. If you watched the whole match, you likely enjoyed it. But if you saw clips, you probably just enjoyed it just as much. Right? So, it's a good match. Logan Paul's finisher is called the Pulverizer. I'm guessing it means pulverizer. And it involves somebody being flipped in the air. And look, I know that these modern wrestlers, they tend to overthink their finishers. Your finisher should be something you can do on everybody. That move that Logan Paul did here, he ain't going to be able to do that on John Cena. John Cena is not taking that. I don't think John Cena is going to take a pulverizer, okay? I don't think CM Punk's going to take it. He can't even do it to Drew McIntyre unless Drew McIntyre jumps into it. Alright? Just go with the buckshot lariat. Steal that. Fuck Hangman Page. He's nobody anyway. He ain't going to do nothing but show up and sew the holes in your pants. So fuck him. Go with something that is more universal. You know? But I love the match. And Logan Paul being in the Elimination Chamber match is fun. It seems like they just decided that all of the last 5 guys in the Royal Rumble are going to be all the guys that are going to be in the Elimination Chamber match. Which is not a surprise, as Triple H wants to tell that basic-ass story. This thing needs to be jazzed up, you know. But now that we know that the Elimination Chamber winner is going to be the guy who's wrestling Cody, for sure now, which to me is backwards, because, you know, the guy who wins the Royal Rumble should challenge for the A title, not for the B title. But where that bridge is already over, okay? There's no point in going back over that. But now that we know that Cody's the opponent, you know, we should be able to shrink down who the challenger is going to be, and it's more than likely going to end up being CM Punk. Now, I said that before he ended up losing, you know, But I think it's going to be CM Punk. He's the one who's talking about it the most. And usually in WWE, if you talk about it the most, you're the more likely to be the winner. So I'm thinking CM Punk versus Cody is going to be our WrestleMania main event. And that ought to be fun. That ought to be great. The issue is going to be how we shake out the rest of this card. Because, remember, one of the teased matches was Logan Paul and John Cena. And Logan Paul and John Cena are both going to be in Elimination Chamber. And some people are going to have an attitude about that, which is kind of well deserved. But when you consider who's going to be in it, what better option you got than either Cena or Punk winning it? Do you really want to see Cody Rhodes wrestle Drew McIntyre in the main event of WrestleMania? No. Logan Paul, forget it. Seth Rollins, hell no. So it's got to be either Punk or Cena. I'm going to put my money on Punk because I think that's where the whole thing is going, is towards Punk and Cody. But I also think that's a pivot. I think that is a backup plan because the original plans, which likely included The Rock and Roman Reigns and folks like that, was put on the back burner. Now, there was on social media a conversation about there being a triple threat match. Rollins, Reigns, Punk, for no reason at WrestleMania. Just the three of them because they don't like each other. If Roman Reigns is, coming, if he comes to the show and Triple H pitches that idea to him that he's going to wrestle Seth Rollins and CM Punk in a triple threat match with no title on the line or anything like that, if I'm Roman Reigns, I go home. All right? If that's the idea that they pitch to you, that you're going to wrestle in a triple threat match with nothing on the line, I would just say, Triple H, you clearly lost your mind. I'm going to go home until you find it. Not only is it a bad match, because it's a triple threat match for no reason, it's obviously a waste of star power. Because Punk and Roman can carry that match by themselves. They don't need Rollins. Right? And both of them have wrestled Rollins 100 times. They don't, Now, if it's Roman and Rollins, if it's a Hell in a Cell or something like that, maybe. If it's a last man standing or loser leaves town or something like that, maybe. But if it's just Roman versus Rollins in a singles match, I don't see how that's enough to have Roman work WrestleMania. Now, Roman's in a really bad spot because The Rock is not showing up. And he spent all this time building to a Rock match that's now not going to happen. So, I would be shitty if I was him. And I'm pretty sure he is. That's why he's not working on TV. Now, you still have the Randy Orton equation. Because, again, he's been off TV all this time, too. And it looks like they're going to start heading towards Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. So, what is Randy going to do? Right? That's an interesting question. Unless they put Randy in the chamber. Now, maybe you put Randy in the chamber and Randy wins that match, and it's Randy and Cody at WrestleMania. Which I guess it could be. But I don't see that happening. The New Day attacked Rey Mysterio after this match, but then it went off the air. So, we didn't get to see the developments, and they don't matter. So, do we care about New Day anyway? No, they're on TV all the fucking time. They're all 40 years old. Who cares? So, Raw was actually, it wasn't terrible this week. I enjoyed the Elimination Chamber qualifying matches, at the very least. Big fan of AJ Styles and Dominic Mysterio. But there was more misses than hits, as, clearly. Their creative idea is just to keep pushing the same people over and over again to get endless title shots. It's like, of course you're firing people. Now, at least before events was like, I don't know what to do with this guy, fire him. Now, Triple H not even giving people chances. He got them sitting in catering because we got to have 3 EO Sky segments on the show, for God's sake. 3 Seth Rollins spots and two or three Rhea Ripley spots. I mean, whatever. But Raw is mid, as usual. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to you folks later. Be blessed.